What is up guys, Jay here, and this is a new Gwent video for you, going over the developer livestream that happened on the 3rd of February 2020 for the patch 5.1, just before the day of release. So I'm going to do this recording in one take because I've tried doing this several takes and it's just not going well. So yeah, I'm just going to go all in the one because I need to get the video out there before the actual patch is released. So I've got, what, like 13 hours. So yeah, let's get it done with. So, to start off the live stream, they went over the game fixes. Incoming triggers can now be cancelled, for example, targeting or income for Syndicate. So when you use a card that, say, Syndicate gives you profit, you can then cancel that card after using it if you decide something else is better. So instead of gaining the profit as soon as you play the card, there now will be a delay where you can cancel playing the card like you can other stuff. They mentioned that when they made the Novigrad expansion, this is something they kind of didn't get around to doing. So now they finally fixed that, and that's how it should be now. This also, I believe this also counts for any other trigger. So for an example, using the card Fauve in the Scoia'tael deck. This card allows you to play a nature card from your deck. So my belief is if you play Fauve, instead of it coming up with the three options of what cards... No, not three options. If it comes up with the options of cards you can play from your deck, instead of this happening straight away and not being able to cancel it, you can now cancel the card before it activates. Hopefully that makes sense. So for mobile, you can now tap once on a card on the battlefield to read the description. The second tap will activate any orders on that card. So this is just sort of like a quality of life update for the mobile players. This only applies to iOS right now, but Android will be coming hopefully soon. So the next thing that they mention is a nice little thing. In pro rank matches, the opponent's name will be hidden until results screen. This should help prevent win trading / stream sniping. So I've seen a few people say that this is a good thing, and some people say that it might be a bad thing because you're going to have to change like cosmetics. So your trinkets and your borders, you're going to have to change around every few games so people don't recognise you. And the next thing to come was about the rank system. So now we will lose less ranks when the new season starts. So rank 1 to 13 will lose 2 ranks. Ranks 14 to 23 will lose 1 rank. Rank 24 to 30 will lose 0 ranks. And anyone in pro rank loses 3 ranks unless you are the top 500. So just a few things to mention here is that all faction artifact removal have now been removed, and this is only a neutral only ability. For example, the all-reliable Bomb Heaver, you can now use him in every deck, as artifact removal from factions has been completely removed. Scenarios are not getting changed besides the provision costs of the Monster Horn and the Syndicate Passiflora. And another note is that the scenarios are now being given a category / tag. So if you're playing Harmony and you are playing the Feign Death scenario, this will trigger Harmony, which is baffling. But yeah, take it as it is. Now moving on to the cards that have actually been changed. First we start with the Tactical Advantage. It now has a premium, so now you can have a completely premium deck and you don't just have a Tactical Advantage static card sat there. The next card to mention is Radel. The provision change has been from 10 provisions to 12. That is the only nerf she's received. The next card is Adrenaline Rush, which was give resilience to an allied unit. This is now boost an allied unit by 8 if there are no other units on that row. Next is Morale, the OP Poison Boy himself. This has been nerfed from 9 provisions to 10. King Cobra from 4 provisions to 5. So it's just a little like poison nerf here and there, not necessarily changing much, just provisions. The next card is Crow's Eye, now a 4 provision neutral card which purifies an allied unit and boosts it by 3. Next on the list is Epidemic. Instead of it destroying all the lowest units, it now destroys a 4 provision unit. Moving on now to the faction specific cards. First we start with Monster. The first card is Imlerith. The new ability is Deploy, set an allied unit's power to 7 Dominate, set a unit's power to 7 instead. This now has 7 power instead of 5, and the provision cost has changed from 8 to 12. The next card is Niffle. Instead of being an artifact removal, the ability is now Order in melee row, damage a unit by 1, Dominance, damage a unit by 2 instead, and has a cooldown of 1. The next card is Imlerith's Wrath. Damage an enemy unit by the power of your highest allied unit. If you control Imlerith, destroy an enemy unit instead. Wild Hunt Hound now has Dominance at the end of your turn, boost self by 1. Wild Hunt Warrior is now deploy, damage an enemy unit by 1, Dominance, damage it by 3 instead. She-Troll of Vergen now has melee whenever a unit is destroyed during your turn, boost self by 2. Next is Adder Striker. The ability has been changed to deploy, damage an enemy unit by 2, Dominance, damage it by 4 instead, and the provisions has been changed from 8 to 7. Moving on to Skelliger, however you want to pronounce it. Reckless Flurry now ignores armor. Brockvar Hunter, order damage a unit by 1, cooldown 2. Whenever you discard a card, reduce cooldown by 1. Hammond Scald, deploy, draw a card, then discard a card. This has just been swapped around. Demon Pirate Captain, deploy, damage an enemy unit by 1, Bloodthirst 2, damage it by 3 instead. Ancrate Warcrier, Bloodthirst 1, at the end of your turn, boost self by 1. Wild Boar of the Sea, and now this is one card I think could be really good now. Deploy melee, damage all damaged enemy units by 1, then damage all enemy units by 1. So it'll hit the red numbers first, and then it will hit all of the numbers. The provision cost has also been slightly changed. Giant Boar has now got a nice new change. It now has the melee and range deploy. The melee one is boost self by 1 for each damaged unit. The ranged one is boost self by the amount an enemy unit is damaged. And then Skarl. Berserk 5, destroy self. This is more to fit with lore reasons, and his power has also been changed slightly. Moving on to Northern Realms. Pincer Maneuver, the leader ability, has now been moved from 15 provisions to 12 provisions, making it a bit harder to make a deck with it. Aretusa Adept now only gains Zeal if you control a mage, not just having Zeal from the get-go. Moving on to one of my favourites, Scoia'tael. Mystic Echo has now been changed from 13 provisions to 12. Novigradian Justice has been changed quite a lot. Now it spawns a Cleaver's Muscle in your melee row and play a Bronze Dwarf from your deck. Call of Harmony has been changed on its provisions. Deadeye Ambush no longer relies on traps, you can just spawn Deadeyes. Yavin only applies to a single row now, not your battlefield. Barclay is the same as Yavin but for dwarves. Willow's power has been changed from 6 to 5. Etriel and Merlega provisions have been upped by 1, so from 7 to 8 provisions. Triumphbore now can gain Zeal if you control a Dryad. Nilfgaard Enslave has now been nerfed from 16 provisions to 15. Double Cross has been buffed in provisions from 16 to 17. And Falseri has been changed from artifact removal to boost an agent by 3. Syndicate. Congregate now gains a coin whenever you use a charge instead of it giving you coins when you've used all charges. Blood Money now from 7 damage to 8, just like the Northern Realms Vicious Slash. Jackpot now from 15 provisions to 16. Off the books provisions now from 15 to 16. Wildcard is to 14 provisions. Tunnel Drill is no longer artifact removal, now it's profit 1, fee 3, damage an enemy unit by 1, increase the damage by 1 for each adjacent crown splitter. Eventide Plunder is now gain 4 coins, if your opponent controls an artifact, gain 6 coins instead. The Passiflora scenario for Syndicate has been changed quite a lot. The prologue is now spawn a Slicer Ductress. Chapter 1 is spawn Passiflora Peaches in this row, and Chapter 2 is gain 6 coins. Hammond has now been changed quite a bit. He is now deploy, move an enemy unit to the other row and give it bleeding for 2. Increase the bleeding by 1 for each adjacent pirate. Excommunication has been changed. It still has the banish an allied unit, then play the top card from your deck, but now if it's a Firesworn target, look at the top 3 cards from your deck and play one of them instead. And now last, Possession of Penance has now been buffed from 10 to 12 power, but the deploy ability is now damage self by 10, reduce the damage by 2 for every Firesworn Zealot you control. And that is it for this developer stream patch 5.1 overview. Hopefully you enjoyed it. It is currently 3:30 AM and I am still editing this. If you have enjoyed this video, then please wait out for my 5.1 patch notes overview, where I will go through all the actual patch notes, not just the developer stream. And if you can, follow me on Twitter, join me on Discord, and follow me on Twitch, and you'll know when I'll go live through the Twitter and the Discord. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you later.